You believe you can distinguish a loyal woman from the one who will eventually burn your kingdom to the ground. You focus on her modesty, her quiet tones, the way she whispers words of devotion. You are looking at the mask. You are listening to the performance, while her subconscious, her true shadow nature, is broadcasting an entirely different reality. These are signals that most men are blind to, frequencies they cannot hear until it is far too late. Today, we end that ignorance. I am not offering you advice. I am handing you a decoder, a tool that strips away the social veneer to reveal not who she wants to be, but who she fundamentally is. We will not speak of morality. We will speak of two ancient psychological blueprints. Two archetypes define the entire landscape of female psychology. The first is the queen. Her biological imperative is construction. She is not looking for a savior, she is looking for a co-creator. Her goal is to build a kingdom where your victories become her victories, and your walls become her walls. She is the architect of the shared empire. The second archetype is the favorite. Her goal is not to build, but to inhabit. She exists to enjoy the warmth of the court, so long as the king remains strong and generous. She does not sow, she reaps. She consumes resources rather than creating them. And the moment a ship flying the flag of a wealthier monarch appears on the horizon, her loyalty will evaporate like morning mist. Do not mistake this for malice. This is not a matter of morality. It is a matter of instinct, an ancient, parasitic program, embedded in her very essence to ensure her own survival at your expense. Today, you will learn to read this code through two invisible signals that mainstream psychology is too polite to discuss and that women instinctively conceal. But I must issue a warning. This information is a one-way door. Once you see the mechanism, you cannot unsee it. It will burn your comfortable illusions to ash. If you only watch halfway, you will be left with dangerous half-knowledge, a weapon you do not know how to wield. The most critical key, the 12th signal, is the final test, a diagnostic so brutal, I will reveal it only at the very end. So, before we descend, mark your presence. Like this video, to signal you are ready for the truth. If you are new and willing to walk into the abyss of real knowledge, subscribe right now. And I am curious about the geography of this brotherhood. Write in the comments which city you are watching from. Let us see how far the awakening has spread. Act 1. The social scan. This is the first level of diagnosis. We are not yet touching the deep psychology of the bedroom or the shadow self. We are simply observing how she interfaces with the outside world, and specifically, with the fruits of your labor. It is here, in her immediate social reflexes, that the first codes of her true programming are exposed. And the first code is the most deceptive of all. Signal number 1. Her reaction to your triumph. Imagine the scenario. You return home having conquered a dragon, a massive deal closed, a promotion secured, a project launched after months of grinding. This is your apex moment. Watch her eyes in the first 3 seconds. A woman running the favorite software will be ecstatic. Her eyes will sparkle. She may even throw herself at you. But do not be fooled. Her joy is that of a consumer who has just gained access to a new credit limit. Her brain is not processing your struggle. It is calculating the inventory of new benefits now available to her. Listen to her pronouns. Now we can finally go to Italy. I have wanted that bag for so long. She is not celebrating your victory. She is celebrating the expansion of her lifestyle. This is the pleasure principle, in its purest, most predatory form. The queen reacts from a different psychological center. Her joy is the quiet, fierce pride of an ally. She knows the cost of that victory, the cortisol, the sleepless nights, the risk. Her first reaction is not directed at the spoils of war, but at the warrior. Her gaze locks onto you. I knew you could do it. You deserve this. She validates your power, not your wallet. To the favorite, you are a resource generator. To the queen, you are the foundation of the shared kingdom. The difference is subtle, but it is the difference between a partner and a parasite. Signal number 2. Her reaction to your failure. Let us invert the board. The moment of truth is rarely found in victory. It is forged in the fires of defeat. You come home carrying the weight of a crushing loss, money burned, a contract dead, a business at risk. You are temporarily wounded. Watch closely, for this is where the mask slips completely. The favorite, upon sensing the scent of failure, enters a state of quiet, vibrating irritation. Her instinct, honed over millennia to seek the strongest provider, sounds a biological alarm. Your failure is not a shared tragedy. It is a direct threat to her personal security and comfort. Initially, she may feign sympathy, but it will be hollow, technical. Within hours, the passive aggression begins. Small jabs, questions laced with hidden blame. I told you not to trust him. So, what are you going to do now? Her body language recoils. Hugs become brief and formal. In her subconscious, you have transformed from a king into a liability. She begins to instinctively distance herself, ensuring that when your ship sinks, it does not drag her down into the abyss. She is already scanning the horizon for a lifeboat. The queen, in the face of your defeat, transforms into a fortress. Her reaction is not irritation, it is mobilization. She instinctively understands that the kingdom is under siege, and her place is not weeping in her chambers, but beside the king in the war council. She pours you a drink, sits close, and asks the single question that distinguishes a wife from a passenger. What is our next move? Note the word our. She voluntarily shares the weight of the failure. She becomes your external willpower when yours is depleted. She offers silence that does not judge, but strengthens. A builder knows that the foundation is tested only during the storm. To her, your failure is not the end. It is merely a reason to reinforce the walls. Signal number 3, the shadow collective, her inner circle. Never listen to what a woman says about herself. Words are easily tailored. Instead, look at the pack she runs with. Her inner circle is not just a group of friends. It is a mirror of her true shadow values and her hidden aspirations. The favorite's friends function essentially as a board of directors for her personal brand. Their primary function is constant valuation and auditing. They do not assess your character, they assess your yield, your income, your gifts, your status utility. Their conversations resemble stock market reports, comparing their men, boasting about acquisitions, discussing who made the better trade. When she returns from this coven, she comes back charged with their toxic competitive voltage. She becomes demanding, capricious. Why? Because in that circle, women do not support each other. They compete with each other through their men. If her friend receives a luxury car from a suitor, you can be certain you will pay for it in passive-aggressive comments about your own vehicle. It is an environment that constantly reminds the favorite that she is a commodity on a shelf, and her job is to sell to the highest bidder. If your stock drops in the eyes of this board, they will be the first to advise her to liquidate the asset and move on. The queen's circle operates on a different frequency. Her friends are not competitors, they are allies. They are self-sufficient, individuated women who have their own lives, their own empires. When they gather, they do not discuss the price of gifts. They discuss ideas, projects, books, and growth. They support evolution, not consumption. If the queen confides in them about a difficulty in your relationship, they do not shriek, "Dump him." They ask, "How can we help you fix this?" They respect your position as the king by default because they respect their friend's judgment. She returns from these women, not with new demands, but with renewed wisdom and calm. Her pack is a pack of creators, not resource hunters. Show me who she fears being judged by, and I will tell you who she truly is. Signal number 4. The triangulation. Trap her reaction to external desire. Here you are in the wild, a restaurant, a party, and the inevitable happens. Another man signals his interest. He holds his gaze too long. He offers a compliment. He attempts to breach the perimeter. Her reaction in this micro-moment is a litmus test of her soul. The favorite uses the gaze of others as a weapon of triangulation. She has two primary shadow strategies. The first is the auctioneer. She engages in demonstrative flirtation, laughing a little too loud, batting her eyes. She does this not necessarily because she plans to cheat in that moment, but to artificially inflate her market value in your eyes. It is a subconscious message. Look, I am in high demand. The bidding is open. Pay up or lose me. She creates artificial anxiety to keep you on your toes. The second strategy is theatrical victimhood. She dramatically rejects the suitor and then attacks you. Did you see how he looked at me? Why did you do nothing? The goal is the same. To feed on your reaction. To force you into a performative display of ownership. In both cases, the other man is just a prop in her game of ego. The queen's reaction is based on the logic of absolute sovereignty. When another man approaches, she reacts with the void polite, neutral, and brief. She does not humiliate him, nor does she feed him. She simply offers him nothing. Her behavior sends a binary code. I see you, but I am unavailable. Watch her body language. She will physically close the distance between you and her, taking your arm, leaning into your shoulder. This is not fear. This is a territorial declaration. She does not use the situation to provoke jealousy, because she does not need to validate her existence through a stranger's desire. To the favorite, male attention is oxygen. To the queen, it is merely background noise that has no bearing on the reality of her union. Her loyalty is a constant, not a variable dependent on who is watching. Act 2. The intimate audit. We now descend from the social stage into the primal dark. Here, in the bedroom, the sophisticated masks of language dissolve. Only instinct, energy, and true intent remain. A woman's behavior during intimacy is not merely physiological. It is a direct, uncensored transmission of her psychological programming. You simply need to learn how to tune into the frequency. Signal number 5. The motivation. Before a single touch is exchanged, there is always an impetus, the why, behind the act. This hidden motive is the key to the entire structure of your relationship. For the favorite, intimacy is never free. It is a tool of leverage. She operates on 3 shadow settings. The first is ego feed. She needs to witness your loss of control to affirm her power over you. It is not about the act, it is about the conquest. The second is transaction sex as a reward for your good behavior, a gift, a trip, or as an advance payment for future extraction. The third is duty, the cold, technical repayment of a marital debt. In all cases, she remains separate. Sex is a service she provides, not an experience she shares. For the queen, intimacy is alchemical fusion. It is the physical manifestation of the emotional dialogue you have been holding all day. Her goal is not leverage, but dissolution, to dissolve the barrier between you and me until only us remains. She initiates, not because she wants something from you, but because she wants to be with you. She does not use sex as a weapon or a treat. To her, it is a sanctuary. She cannot reach her own peak unless she feels you are there with her, on the same wavelength. The favorite checks out, the queen checks in. One is business, the other is communion. And now, we must speak of the sounds of the dark, the unnumbered signal that men often misinterpret as passion when it is merely performance. There is a distinct audio signature to genuine desire that cannot be faked by the conscious mind. The favorite is often a performer. Her sounds are melodic, rhythmic, almost cinematic. They are designed for an audience of one. She is monitoring herself, ensuring she sounds correct, mirroring what she believes you want to hear, or perhaps what she has learned from the screen. It is a controlled broadcast, but when the queen truly surrenders, the sounds are primal, broken, and involuntary. Listen for the reptilian breath. It is not a moan, it is a gasp. It is the sound of someone drowning in sensation. It is short, sharp intakes of air, quiet sobs, the chaotic rhythm of a nervous system that has been overridden by pure instinct. She may try to cover her mouth, ashamed of the raw animalism escaping her lips. This is the critical distinction. The favorite wants you to hear her pleasure so she can validate her performance. The queen is too lost in the pleasure to care if she is heard at all. If you learn to distinguish the choreographed soundtrack of a porn star from the chaotic, messy documentary of a woman's soul leaving her body, you will never again be deceived by fake passion. Signal number 9. the detachment. The act is finished. The biological imperative has been satisfied. And here, in the cooling embers of passion, another brutal test occurs. Watch what she does in the first 3 minutes after the fire dies down. The favorite, for whom intimacy was merely a sport or a service, seeks to sever the emotional cord immediately. The transaction is complete, the receipt is printed, and she is ready to clock out. Her most common reflex is to turn away and reach for her phone. She floods her brain with the cheap dopamine of social media, instantly exiting the shared reality you just created. Or, she may abruptly pivot to the mundane. Did you pay the electric bill? We need milk. By doing this, she actively devalues the sacredness of the act, reducing it to a physiological sneeze. Her body was present, but her soul has already left the room. The queen's behavior is diametrically opposed. For her, the climax is not the end. It is the beginning of the afterglow, a critical period of bonding. She instinctively seeks to anchor the energy. She snuggles into the crook of your arm, tangles her legs with yours, rests her hand on your chest to feel the rhythm of your heart. She is in no hurry to return to the matrix of the outside world. She wants to linger in the silence, to let the oxytocin fuse your nervous systems together. She understands that the after is where the trust is solidified. If a woman reaches for her screen before she reaches for your hand, know this: you are sleeping with a tourist, not a resident. Act 3. The psychological verdict. We have scanned her social camouflage and audited her animal instincts. Now, we ascend to the final, most cerebral level of diagnosis. We must analyze the software running her reality, her relationship with time, responsibility, and the truth. This is where we deliver the verdict on her soul. Signal number 10, the historical narrative. One evening, ask her to tell you the story of her past loves. Do not do this to feed your jealousy or to dig for dirt. Do it to hear the role she assigns herself in her own biography. The favorite almost always recites the myth of the victim. In her retelling, the names and faces change, but the plot remains identical. She was the perfect, innocent princess, and her exes were all narcissists, abusers, or tyrants who failed to appreciate her light. She admits no fault. She accepts no blame. This victim stance is the single most dangerous red flag in female psychology. Why? First, it means she is incapable of self-reflection. She cannot see her own shadow, and therefore, she is doomed to repeat her mistakes endlessly. Second, and more terrifying, as long as you are useful, you are the savior. But the moment you stumble, you will automatically be recast as the next villain in her story. She is a revisionist historian who erases her own accountability. The queen speaks of her past with the voice of an author, not a victim. She may admit to pain, yes, but she speaks of her exes with neutrality, perhaps even a distant respect for the lessons they taught her. Crucially, she owns her share of the rubble. You will hear phrases like, "I was too young," "I didn't know how to communicate," or "we destroyed each other." She acknowledges her own toxicity. This is the mark of high psychological rank. She understands that a relationship is a co-created dynamic. Because she accepts responsibility for her past, you can trust her with your future. She does not look for a scapegoat. She looks for the truth. Signal number 11. The boundary siege. Every man has a primal need for the cave personal space, silence, the garage, time with the brotherhood. This is not a luxury. It is a psychological necessity for recharging masculine energy. How a woman treats this perimeter is a definitive diagnostic of her security. The favorite perceives your autonomy as a direct threat. When you state your need for solitude or a night out, she does not hear a request for space. She hears a rejection of her value. Am I boring you? Why do you need to go? Her insecurity triggers a campaign of territorial surveillance. She text bombs you every 30 minutes. She demands to know who is there. She might even accidentally show up where you are. This is not love, it is suffocation. In her distorted worldview, you are not a separate entity. You are an extension of her ego, a possession that must remain within visual range to be controlled. She strives to dissolve your boundaries completely, to deprive you of oxygen until you are too weak to leave. She wants a hostage, not a husband. The queen respects the sanctity of the cave. She understands that a man who cannot retreat into silence cannot return with strength. She does not view your solitude as an abandonment. She views it as a necessary reset. She has her own empire, her own interests, her own garden to tend. She trusts you. She does not need to track your GPS to believe in your loyalty. She hands you your freedom willingly because she knows a fundamental truth. A man who returns to her of his own free will is infinitely more valuable than a man kept on a short leash. She does not want to consume you. She wants to stand beside you. In her presence, you can breathe. Signal number 12, the ultimate test. And so, we arrive at the final gate. The previous 11 signals can, with enough skill and sociopathy, be mimicked or masked. A clever favorite can fake enthusiasm for your success or pretend to like your friends. But this signal bypasses the cognitive brain and strikes directly at the reptilian core. It is the moment of absolute truth. It is the reaction to your vulnerability. The setup is simple. You must wait for a moment, or perhaps create one where you drop the heavy armor of the king. You show her not the conqueror, but the man. You admit a deep fear. You confess a crushing uncertainty. You let her see you bleed, just for a moment. You strip yourself naked of your strength. And in that split second, her biological programming will execute a command that she cannot hide. The favorite, upon witnessing your weakness, will experience a visceral spike of repulsion. It is biological. Her primal brain receives a frantic signal. The alpha is compromised. The protector is broken. Survival is threatened. Watch her face. For a microsecond, before her social mask slides back into place, you will see it. The sneer. A flicker of genuine contempt. She may offer verbal platitudes. It will be fine, but they will be delivered with a cold, clinical detachment. Her body will physically recoil. She will lean back, cross her arms, create distance. She cannot help it. To a woman operating on survival instincts, a weak king is not a tragedy. He is a liability. In that moment, her attraction to you dies a violent death. She does not see your humanity. She sees a defect in the product. She will begin to resent you for not being the invincible statue she purchased. The countdown to her departure has begun. The queen's reaction is the polar opposite. The moment you expose your underbelly, she does not recoil. She advances. She steps into the breach. Her instinct is not that of a consumer fleeing a sinking ship, but of a fierce guardian protecting the heart of the castle. She sees your vulnerability, not as a defect, but as the highest form of tribute, a sign that you trust her enough to hand her the knife, knowing she will not use it. She will not offer empty advice. She will not judge. She will physically close the gap holding you, grounding you, creating a sanctuary of silence where you can reassemble yourself. In that moment, she transforms from your lover into your fortress. She understands that even a god of war must sometimes rest his sword. Her love is not a transaction paid for with your strength. It is a covenant that covers your weakness. When she looks at you in your lowest moment, you will not see contempt. You will see a ferocious, protective loyalty. She is not going anywhere. She is digging in. Conclusion. A choice, not a chance. We have dissected 12 distinct, brutal codes. And now the picture should be terrifyingly clear. Loyalty, or disloyalty, is not a random event committed in the heat of a moment. It is the inevitable mathematical result of deep psychological programming. It manifests in hundreds of micro-moments, in how she breathes during intimacy, in how she reacts to your failures, and in the coldness or warmth of her eyes when you are weak. Stop listening to the poetry of eternal love. Words are the cheapest currency on earth. Inflation has made them worthless. Start reading the prose of her behavior. Use these 12 signals as your decoder. You now have the eyes to see who is truly standing in front of you. A queen sharpening her sword to guard your back, or a favorite waiting for the champagne to run out so she can switch parties. This is not a lottery. You do not get lucky with a loyal woman. You select her. And you cannot select what you cannot see. Now you have the knowledge. And knowledge is the only real power in the sexual marketplace. You have the power to stop building your castle on sand. You have the power to reject the parasite and wait for the partner. Do not compromise. Do not ignore the red flags because the sex is good or the face is pretty. Build your life with someone who is a stone in your wall, not a crack in your foundation. I have shared the code with you, but this brotherhood is vast and holds deep scars and deep wisdom. I want to hear from the council. Which of these 12 signals has been the most accurate, infallible indicator in your own life? Or perhaps you have discovered a 13th signal, a shadow trait that I did not mention. Write your story and your warning in the comments below. Let us build a library of truth for the men who come after us. Watch the signals, trust your instincts, and never apologize for demanding a queen.